Guys, it's episode 7 of the 343 podcast, and I'm your host, AF. Welcome back to Jason Ronnie, Nikita Koopman, and a guy that's make a long awaited return, Ziyaad Parker. Good to have you
Thanks,
guys on
man.
again.
Good to be here, man.
Thanks, AF. Good to be here.
So, yeah, let's just get straight to it. This past week, I seen Manchester United try to recover from a humiliating 5-0 loss against the rivals Liverpool. It's been a tough week as a United supporter. But yeah, they were immediately linked with a move for Antonio Conte, who's been out of work for a while, to replace Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And since then, United's beaten Tottenham Hotspur 3-0, and that actually ended up in the sacking of Nuno Espirito Santo. Since then, Antonio Conte has taken up the job of Spurs. But yeah, it's been a bit of a seesaw for him. So Ziyaad, can you give us a bit of pointers about what you think is going on over there, or what has happened over there?
Man, it's actually quite funny if you think about it, because after Liverpool beating United 5-0, everyone was like, to replace the manager. And when you saw that they didn't make the move and they were still willing to give Ole some extra time, it's quite ironic that they go beat Spurs 3-0. Spurs end up taking the action that they should have taken a week ago. And now Spurs have hired the guy that everyone's saying they should have hired. It's like they're living in a different universe, or it's mind-boggling. And when you think about him signing for Spurs, what's different, to 3-4 months ago when he was offered the job initially? Nothing's really changed. The squad looks pretty much the same. Obviously, we don't know what happens behind the scenes, but Conte said in his press conference today that he was too emotionally invested in Interstall to make the jump to Spurs. I don't buy that at all. I think that he wasn't convinced by the project. Harry Kane wanted away and so on. And I think that he's taken the job now with some promises that they're going to spend. Maybe in January. I don't know what you can have lined up in January, to be honest. But it is a unique year next year because it's a World Cup year. But the World Cup is not in June, July. It's actually at the end of the year. So you're going to find players who are on the edge of other squads that need game time that could possibly be available in January. You also got the Newcastle issue because they're going to have money to spend. So it's going to be interesting to see if he takes the squad and he's been given the backing to add to it. But like we all know, it's very difficult to add in January. So I think there are some deals in place where, he's going to get certain players, or he's been promised he'll be able to get certain players. But at the end of the day, it's a good move for Spurs, as he's a very successful manager. The history is there, the track record is there. It all comes down to, can he get the players to perform? Because if I'm sitting in that dressing room, I'm asking my fellow teammates, this guy didn't want to be here 3 months ago. Why should we give him any attention now? Why are we suddenly good enough? We're actually worse than we were 3 months ago. So why does he want to come now? And he didn't want us before. And that's the biggest question for me, is the first week's going to be important. How does he get the guys to buy into what he wants to do? And is he going to be able to supplement that squad, which is a bit thin, in my opinion, with the type of players that he wants and needs?
Yeah, I actually saw that there was quite a transfer list that he's already given into Paratici. So some Stefan de Vrij and Matthias de Ligt, Romagnoli.
Hope he got it in writing.
I'm looking at all these people, and these are some top tier players, and there's no chance that they're going to be leaving their teams to come to Spurs, as playing in the Conference League currently. So it's going to be a big task for him to attract the players that he wants, or to attract big name players. Nikita, Jason, do you guys have anything to add?
Just found it so funny. Like, absolutely, I think Ziyaad hit the nail on the head. It's like now there are two big name guys in that dressing room that just don't want to be there, Conte and Harry Kane. So I'm not entirely sure where the jig is. Obviously, money talks. And like I said, I hope whatever transfer promises he got from Levy, he got in writing, because Harry Kane will tell him all about gentlemen's agreements. So I think it's just going to be an interesting one. I think he's working against a rock that's going to be very difficult to shift. I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I think the squad is thin. Really thin. I mean, I think obviously the morale is quite low. I mean, he's going to be under immense pressure. I mean, the fact that they only gave Nuno 10 games is a bit of a farce, you know, considering where he came from, what he was working with, you know, having to manage a lot of bigger personalities than, you know, only Portuguese people at Wolves, you know. So I think it's going to be a tough ask for Conte, but I have to agree with Ziyaad again. So it's crazy that this is where Conte ended up and not at United. But big on United in the same vein, for sticking with Oli, sticking with the project. But all the better for everybody else.
Is there a project? Sorry.
I really think so.
I wasn't aware.
Seconds to keep that straight face, and then the joke. Just,
Come
you know.
on. You got to admire clubs that are willing to stick it out with the manager these days, considering the environment and how quickly managers get hired and fired. There has to be a little semblance of, you know, kind of romanticism left in football.
Or maybe it's just the case of sticking with a guy that's always going to say yes to you and never say no, which is the case at United at the moment.
Yeah, don't bring up United. AF might start crying here live. But yeah,
somebody else is going to have to take over from you while I just excuse myself for 5 minutes.
I think, it is a bit worrisome that he denied it first and now he's come in. But I think also he's feeding into his ego now. You know, he's coming into a project that seems to almost be sinking, and he's the guy that's going to come in. He's going to bring them up. He's going to that long list of players shouldn't exclude Victor Moses, Arturo Vidal. His star players from Inter Milan. Maybe even Ashley Young makes the move from Villa back to Spurs, or to Spurs rather. But yeah, I think there's not a lot of synergy happening within that changing room, and it seems like these players are almost devoid of confidence, and there's just a lot of people pulling in like different directions. So maybe he comes in, maybe he brings that aggression. I mean, everybody knows of that video where he was on the line and he kicked that ball when it just came out, you know, with all that in his suit, screaming, veins popping in his neck. So maybe that's what they need. Whether it's going to work, whether they're going to get these signings January, maybe next year, I don't know. It's fun to watch somebody else struggle a bit, you know. As an Arsenal fan, if it's your nearest rival, it's even better. So, yeah.
Just something to add there quickly. With the deal that he signed, it's very short term. So don't be surprised if he's just taken the job so he can get into London. And, you know, if the United job comes available at some point, maybe he jumps across. Maybe he doesn't want to be the first manager at Newcastle with all the funding. He'd like someone else to start the project, and then 18 months later, doesn't take an extension at Spurs and just moves to the next big project, you know. Things can change quickly at City. Guardiola might be reaching the end of his tenure over there, and suddenly there's a couple of jobs open. But I just think he's giving himself options. Welcome back to London, and can make a move from there. You know, maybe an international team attracts him again after, you know, he did sterling work with Italy. He's just got tons of options, and why not take a salary, you know, from Spurs in the meantime?
Yeah,
The number I saw today was mind-boggling. I thought £20 million, and I was like, what was Nuno on? 2.5?
That's
What
enough
is
to
this
change your
guy?
mind.
Wow, yeah, could change anybody's mind, yeah, I reckon.
I guess if you want one of the best, then you're going to have to pay for one of the best. So, anyways, moving on to the other side of North London, Arsenal has had a proper resurgence since the dismal start of the season. But yeah, we have two Arsenal guys on the panel today. But Jason, I'm going to ask you to explain this. What's happened with what has Arteta done differently since the starting of the season?
Look, I mean, that I think they set us up to fail with those first three fixtures, right? Like Brentford at home, that was never going to be a win for us. And I think Brentford showed now playing against all of the other top teams that they aren't just a walkover side. And then giving us European champions and then Premier League champions, it was always going to be a very tough task for us in those first 3 games. I think after that, what we saw was somewhat of a spine coming together, where we have Gabriel, Ben White playing together. We finally got a right back that can slot into that midfield position that Arteta's been asking for. Somebody also very strong in the challenge, good aerially, has good both right foot, left foot. We have Thomas Partey playing now, looks to be more comfortable, looks to be less injury prone. He's actually hitting a few shots. Maybe they're not on target, but that's how you start, you know. You first have to hit 6 over the poles before you get the one that gets nominated for like goal of the month or something.
Is that the Adebayo theory?
Yeah, 100%. That's that was some dark times, eh? But yeah, man, it's just they're now buying into that philosophy, and I think what we lacked in those first 3 games was the sort of players that were needed for the system. Arsenal's not completely out of the woods. It's not that we're dominating the teams for at least a good 80% of the game, like Liverpool, Man City do, Chelsea even. There's definitely promise to it. I think with those guys that we have in that front line, we have Smith Rowe, we have Saka, who are very good players, but not at the level to possibly handle the sort of pressure that is being put on them at this moment in time. This will come, obviously. But yeah, it's looking good. It's just it's a system that's going to take a few more months just for everybody to fully buy into it. But yeah, it's looking good. It's a decent run. Maybe the Brighton Crystal Palace game wasn't the best, but then we followed that up with a good performance against Aston Villa. Maybe not a full game, like I'm saying, maybe like 50%, 60% of the game we had them very well mannered, very well controlled. And then Leicester now just completely ran them from the start, took the foot off a bit, but we were able to manage that pressure, put quite a bit of pressure on towards the end, could have maybe snuck one. So yeah, it's intriguing. I think we got Watford next, and then it's Liverpool, who's been a very bad game for us recently, both home and away. So that should be an interesting one. Fingers crossed, you know, there's like a little bit of hope that I have, although Liverpool at the moment could probably steamroll any team, except maybe Brighton. But yeah, so it should be interesting. It is nice, like I was saying earlier, it's nice to have your team playing okay, to have them playing moderately good. You know, they have a Friday night kickoff and they win. I can watch for the rest of the weekend with a lot of peace. Then we have the first kickoff on a Saturday and we win there as well, and then I can watch the rest of the weekend. So it is nice, man. There's a lot less tears in this household right now, so that's good.
You mentioned earlier about Gabriel and Ben White forming that sort of solid core at the back. But who's impressed me more than them in recent weeks has been Ramsdale. He's just added that extra bit of confidence for the rest of the players. And I didn't think much of him before he joined Arsenal, because I mean he ended up getting relegated with Sheffield, and he really wasn't great in the polls for them. But he's looked so good since he's joined Arsenal, and it looks like he's grown in confidence game by game, and that's just basically gone over to the rest of the players as well, who feel more confident with him in goal.
So it's really crazy, because at the start of the window, everybody's asking for Edu to make the signings, and then we made these 6 signs. You know, Nuno Tavares, we signed Tomiyasu. We're like, who is this guy? We signed Ramsdale. He was relegated with Bournemouth first. Sheffield, he had, I think, relegation with Wimbledon when he was like just starting out. But these were all system players, and it seems to have fitted in perfectly. So now Arteta looks like a genius, when at the start of the season people were questioning, calling for his head. After the 3 losses and after Spurs 3 wins, they were like, this relegation team. And now we've gone past them. Now we level points with United, who also after that first game against Leeds, you know, they look like they were going to do good. So yeah, it's just having a good core group in that first 11 really works. And we're looking at 6 players, right? So we're saying Ramsdale, we're saying the back 4, because once Tierney slots in, I think he and Nuno Tavares, they complement each other well. So if one's out, one will just step in and to look like it's almost the same. You have Thomas Partey like sitting in there, and he's got Lukonga, who's very good, also very young, but seems to be adjusting okay. And then you have Lacazette, who adds that focal point to the top. Aubameyang, who maybe not as consistent as he used to be, but in those decisive moments, you have somebody who's a proven scorer. So we have that. And then the flanks, you have the youth. So it looks like it's a good project, but it's not going to be instant success. And that's maybe where we have to accept the fact that there will be games, maybe like that Brighton game, where we looked very flat, or in that Crystal Palace where they came and they just completely looked like they could beat us at any moment in time. But yeah, it's just all part of the bigger scheme of things. Like, I mean, I think Nikita can maybe attest to that. In the first few seasons Klopp came, it was very exciting games, you know, that 5-4 game against Norwich sticks out like a sore thumb, like it's just end-to-end stuff. But you can see there's clear progression in it, you know. Second season goes to Champions League final, runs Man City close, then wins the Champions League, then wins the league. It will take time, and yeah, it's just keeping that faith in the system.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also the messaging. You know, if I think a lot of what happened when Wenger left was, you know, the fan base still wanted instant success. And that was never going to happen. When Klopp came in, he said, we'll win the league within 3 years, and he delivered. And, you know, we went on the journey. God, the journey was 30 years, but I mean, we went on the journey. But I think it was in episode 2 of this podcast that I said, do not judge Arsenal after they've played the European champions and then the Premier League champions in consecutive weeks. It's ridiculous. I think it also comes back to this, you know, COVID mentality of us wanting all the time. Whereas I think they finally found their stride. And again, like my comment earlier about Ollie, trust the process, give the guy time, give him a couple of years, a couple of seasons, back him with the signings, back him to invest in the academy. And I think it's going to pay dividends. It's not going to be this year, I don't think. You know, but, you know, a good FA Cup run next year, a League Cup run next year, a Europa Cup run next year could be massive for Arsenal. I'm really excited because, I mean, Arsenal, like Newcastle for me, are big clubs, and they deserve to be up there. They deserve to be spoken about week on week. And I'll be excited when I can come on this podcast and not have to talk about City and only City and Chelsea and how bad United are every week. It'll be really great to have a proper competitive top 6, top 7. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, we were blessed enough to have, you know, a proper competitive top 7, top 8 almost. And that's where I want to get back to. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's interesting you speak about that, because West Ham, they're looking quite good this season, and they did well in the league last season as well. And it seems like they're trying to better what they accomplished last season. So from your point of view, what do you think their chances are about doing that, about bettering their season, and to maybe secure something that's better than their top 6 finish last season? And how do you compare that with the other teams that's also hopeful of trying to get that European spot?
You know, I think we've had a bit of a strange start to the season. We've had a lot of teams doing really well, teams that we wouldn't have expected. You know, the likes of Brentford that we've mentioned already, you know, the likes of even, you know, West Ham, which is obviously topic of contention. And then, you know, Wolves, who have even pulled themselves towards themselves recently and gone on a bit of a run. But, you know, this is a league of 38 games, and it's really, if there's one thing I've learned over 20 odd years of watching Premier League football, is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. I really am expecting a lot of the, you know, the Brightons to fall away. I think they 4 draws out of 5, which I mean still is fantastic. I mean, and they look the real deal. Don't get me wrong, but you know, at some stage you've got to start converting those draws into win. Speaks for my team as well. You know, in order to start pushing that kind of top 6 barrier. But personally, I think West Ham are the real deal. They've shown that consistency season on season. I think the Moyes project, I mean, you must admit, 10 years at Everton, he kept them solidly in the top 10, in contention. If you think if they had the competitions that we have now, they would have played in Europe every single year under Moyes. So I think he's definitely got the fundamentals. They've obviously got some cash in bank for him to invest at to a certain level. So I definitely think they'll be pushing the top 6, because I think the rest of the guys will fall away. I think, sadly, but it seems to be the case, United will be contending in that 4 and 5 kind of bracket this season, even though I think that's unacceptable considering the signings that United have made. They should be pushing for a title. I'm sorry, I'm not going to make excuses for them. I don't care. But I think West Ham look the real peach, and if the influx nature of what's happening at Spurs, changing managers after 10 game weeks, Arsenal still finding their straps, I really think West Ham could make a proper play for 5th, even potentially 4th spot this season. You're definitely going to see the likes of a Liverpool, who people think have been amazing. I don't particularly think so, fall away with half our squad going to AFCON. I think United will be, shown up quite a bit by the better teams in the weeks to come. So I think there's definitely opportunity for as much as it hurts me, for West Ham to make even a top 4 play. I really don't want to watch West Ham play Malmo in the Champions League next season, but so be it. If that's what needs to happen, then so be it.
What about the rest of you guys? You guys have any opinions about West Ham?
I think look, they've got a good project going there as well, and I think Moises got backing from that board. They see what he's doing, and like Nikita said, Everton were consistently in that 5-6 position back in the day. With Mikel Arteta playing in the midfield there, Tim Cahill, leading the line. What I do enjoy about them is that they've got this fluidity going at the moment. Like, people thought, okay, they now have Europa League, they have to travel to Ukraine and all these other weird and wonderful places, but they seem to be okay. They've got a good first 11. They've got very good players that could come in and they would literally do similar jobs. They've got Antonio, whose hamstrings are fine this season, knock on wood, because he's in my fantasy. So yeah, it looks really good. I think like Nikita said, Brighton, I think as much as XGFC look good at the moment, they will fall away, unfortunately. Brentford, as much as they were competing as well at the start, it's like she says, it's 38 game weeks. It's consistently playing at a very good level to get 3 points. This isn't the Championship where you could still get away. You lose against Coventry, then you go on a 6-match winning streak, and then you lose one. It's not like that. So yeah, I think West Ham definitely at a good 4 to 5 spot, maybe even 6, which is fine. Get Europa again for them. That is a massive achievement. It will be interesting to see Conte. I think Spurs might have a mini revival. I don't think it's going to be as quick as they want it to be. But yeah, I'd like to believe that Arsenal's going to try and make a play for that 4 and 5 as well. 6 maybe, get us back into Europa. From Europa, maybe we can try and push and win it the following season, But yeah, it's definitely just breaking that mold of that traditional top 6. I think Leicester seem to be blowing hot and cold at the moment. They stay in and around there, but it's just there's something missing now. I think Brendan Rodgers is I think he's overthinking it a bit. Maybe
it's his 3rd season though, right?
Yeah.
It's Brendan. Yeah. Well, now it's when he fights. So
yeah, this is the part where the guy comes in and finishes the project that he started.
Yeah.
He's not a finisher, unfortunately. So he's ready to start the Newcastle project, and whoever's ready to elevate Leicester
3 years
come
ready
in now.
to take over, take them back, sign Santiago Nunes. But yeah, it's definitely plausible that West Ham can make a very good run. They just seem to be, and I mean, Moyes hasn't been a bad coach. He was competing against Fergie and Wenger, which those are 2 of the greatest Premier League managers competing against each other. And then you had Moyes, who was still able to manage to stay in that bracket, in that 4 and 5 slot. So yeah, I think West Ham definitely a very good shout for that top 6. And yeah, I think Leicester maybe could fall away, but yeah, it could be restored to a traditional top 6. But I think West Ham would be in there, and they could. I think maybe then we need to ask the question, like maybe we need to scrap and maybe we say traditional top 7. Thoughts, questions,
If we keep on doing that, then it's just going to keep on growing year on year. Next thing you know, we're talking about a top 14.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, it could be fun. Just to get Norwich relegated and promoted
Probably
each and every year.
easier
Fun.
to call it the bottom 14 and like the
And
best
then
of the rest.
yeah, it's the top 6, man.
Ziyaad, anything to add on your side?
Yeah, look, for me, West Ham, it's a really simple equation for them. As long as they keep Declan Rice, they're going to go forward. If they get to that point in the road where they sell him, that just shows they don't have the ambition to make the Champions League, you know. You don't have that situation that Leicester had when they won the league and then they sold Mahrez the next season and Kante. It doesn't make sense because it shows that you're happy to just win once off and you're not committed to sustaining it, if that makes sense. So if they can get into the top 4, I would definitely be aiming for that if I was West Ham, because then you can attract better players. I mean, they do need another striker. There's only so long you can go relying on Antonio, and if you can keep Rice and build around him, they've got a really good young squad. So yeah, it's exciting to watch them.
Yeah, and what I love is that their goals don't only come. I mean, Antonio's blanked, I think 2 or 3 claimings in a row now. It's nice. Their goals come from all over the pitch. That's very exciting. I think as a West Ham fan, I will be exceptionally excited. But I must say, to your points here, I've never seen a midfielder that I think would fit better into a United midfield than Declan Rice. I think if there's one pivotal piece that they're missing at the moment, or over and above many things, including balance, is Declan Rice in the United midfield. AF, I don't know. I would be salivating at the thought if I was you.
The thing is, like, for the last, I think two seasons, we were linked to him, and I think back in 2019, the price tag was what, 45 million. It's now 110 million, and I like Declan Rice. I think he's a proper midfielder, but 110 million. That's when the player transfers.
5
like
Contes.
He comes into your team and then he forgets how to play football immediately, because that price tag just like tags him down completely. So yeah, man, like, as much as I would love to have him, I don't think paying over 100 mil for a central midfielder is what's the best thing for United.
Let's
but
rather
yeah-
spend 300 mil on a defense.
that's a discussion for another day. For now, let's
Have that
just
defense get off the coach against Liverpool, you know? That's money well spent. Jeez.
300 million. That's like Klopp's like week dream. That's I can't even imagine what that must be like.
Jeez. That's something that Ole and Pep have in common, I guess.
Yeah. We need to get a City fan on here so they can contextualize what that actually means in real terms.
If
5
you
million.
if you are a City fan, then just contact us. We'd like to have you on the show.
Yeah, I don't know many City fans like in our generation. They're either all like 12 or 13 years old, or they're very old.
I have one City fan in my circle, but that's because he grew up in Manchester. That's the only reason. So yeah,
Fair enough.
it doesn't help.
I'm sure I have a better chance of finding a few here in Abu Dhabi.
True.
Probably.
We're just gonna have a quick FPL chat before we wrap up. So yeah, I just want to go around. I want to get everybody's thoughts on who's a good pick to bring in for this game week. I'll just go with my shout quickly, and like I would say Mason Mount, but Tuchel has, I don't know, like I don't know what's going on over there. It's another roulette from him, so you don't know if he's going to be playing these players or not. But he's a good shout. Havertz is a good shout over there as well. Chilwell's a good shout as well. Chelsea just look flying, so I think anybody from them, whether it's an attacking player or a defensive midfielder, should be able to bring you good returns. Ziyaad?
Yeah, Chelsea, I think, going to have to start watching their Champions League 11 and their Champions League minutes to try and figure out who's going to play. So I saw today Reece James is on the bench, so that probably tells you he'll start the next league game for sure. But for me, I don't know if I can say anything because my team sucks. But I keep making the wrong moves, man. Like I was going to put Maxwell in, and I thought I put him in, but I didn't. So I think this week they have a tough fixture, but then after that, Burnley have a nice run. So Maxwell is a good option. I was surprised with Conor Gallagher, someone I was looking at as well. Didn't expect him to get a haul against City, but Palace do have a good run of fixtures, and he seems to be the focal point of everything Palace do. So kind of like how Grealish was last year for Villa, all the play goes through Gallagher, and he's either going to score or assist. So those are my two picks.
Nice one. Jason?
Yeah, I'm still gonna stick with that Son pick that I said. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. I think Conte coming in now, maybe a change of system. Son looks like he's the most viable pick from that Spurs team until Harry Kane starts to move his feet a bit more. Then we can maybe look at that.
I've still got
also
my
looking
Harry Kane
at
stock.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think if you want something for the pastime, you could maybe go Raul Jimenez. He seems to be playing well now. Got a good goal last night, looked very enterprising, got an assist for Hwang's goal, which was eventually ruled out for offside. If you're looking for a budget creative player, I'd even go as far as looking at Michael Olise from Crystal Palace. He seems to be getting quite a bit of minutes off the bench, but when he does come on, defenses are generally tired. And as you saw with that goal, I think it was Conor Gallagher's goal, he absolutely sent John Stones and Kyle Walker before it eventually came back to him and he dropped it off for Conor. So yeah, those are my two that I would say, or three that you could look at.
Nikita?
I definitely, sorry, Jason, you've taken all my picks. Definitely Son is almost like a differentiator for sure.
Yeah.
I would have, and Jimenez. I've actually had him in, I think, for the last 3 game weeks, and I think he's looking, I think, and I've watched him, and he's looking really agile. He's looking more like himself. He's, in a proper Nuno type setup. So I'm quite excited. I mean, after his horrific injury as well, I'm very excited that he's finding some form. But yeah, I think that's a kind of a good pick. I'm looking at the fixtures as well. I mean, there's no kind of dead rubbers here. I wish it was easy to pick someone from City, so we could, I wish I had an out-and-out 9 so that, we could bag a trick for this weekend. 6-0, what are we going for? Just kidding.
I don't know if I'm even watching that game this weekend.
No,
I think I might just block that game out.
I think I'll just pretend like I didn't see the 5-0 and I'll just say 4 means nothing in these fixtures. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Ollie does. But I definitely think there's going to be goals in that game, probably both ends. Definitely. So I wish I could select someone from City up front, but I mean, with Pep, I mean, he just kills your fantasy every week. You'll drop Diaz if he wants to this weekend just because he can.
The one player that Pep doesn't drop is Jack Grealish. And
yeah, but like I don't like that's 2 points. Thanks.
Yeah, he's not even in form anymore, but because they paid 100 more for him, he's undroppable.
And in a derby, it's probably worth 1 because he's guaranteed to get a yellow card also for hacking someone after missing 10 chances.
Or diving for simulation.
But I mean, he gets a lot of fouls, to be fair. So I don't know, maybe penalty is, I don't know, something. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is with Jack. All the best to him. I should have actually made his number on his jersey, just what your transfer fees. Just put 100 right on the back there. Because he's sure playing like it. He's playing, well, him and Harry Kane are both playing like they both cost 100 million this season.
Same chat room, yeah?
Yeah, only 2 left in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's a wrap on episode 7 of the 343 podcast. Yeah, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Sportycast. Like and share this video and tap the subscribe button below. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and Google Podcasts. I'll put all the details below as usual. Thanks, Jason, Nikita, and Ziyaad. It's always a pleasure having you guys on. I'm AF4 343. Stay safe, and I'll catch you guys next time.